Live from our newsroom, it's the Hard Times Podcast. With Bill Conway and Matt Sankum.
All right, John, thanks for coming and hanging out with us. How have you been?
Yeah, man. You know, and like I was saying before we went live, I'm up and down. I feel like there's sort of a, talking to the neighbor about this just now, I feel like there's a sort of a communal experience of where people are at with things. And like sometimes you notice that everybody's a little extra bummed out, and then sometimes it feels like everybody's coping, you know. And I've been struggling with it this week. I miss work. You know, I miss doing what I do. It's not like I'm not working constantly day in and day out, but what I have done for the past 20 years is get in a van and later on a bus and go play music, you know. And it's weird. It's like very, I mean, that's my entire job since 2004. It's like the main thing.
Has slowing down been difficult?
I mean, so it isn't a slowdown. It's just a move. It moves all the work into different places. You know, I have a book to finish, and that's something I can be doing. I'm doing interviews. I have 3.5 hours of them today. You know, there is no shortage of work for me to do, but the actual rhythm of my life has been radically reconfigured, and so much of it is now parenting. Like parenting under quarantine is a whole different game. And some of it's incredibly rewarding, you know, but it's also very exhausting. We have a 5-year-old, and a 5-year-old will 100%, if they see that you're around, it's like, then you belong to me, is their attitude, right? and it's like, it's great, it's beautiful, but it's also quite taxing. And by the end of the day, we are just absolutely cracked. It's like really like time for bed. So yeah,
you told me that one of your kids is doing kindergarten over Zoom. How does that even work? Because isn't kindergarten like mostly daycare, kind of?
No, I mean, well, for one thing, I couch this by saying I know everybody's child is exceptional, and I'm really against sort of my child's a genius kind of boasting. But my son is precocious in where he's at with his development. He's reading, he plays chess, he's 5, right? And he can beat you at chess.
I still don't know how to play chess.
Yeah, I'm terrible at chess. And he's really, his ability to grasp rule sets is pretty bonkers. And so he's reading and writing. He'll be 6.
So he's teaching the rest of the class.
He's ahead. It's funny because like there's an aspect of me that's a little jealous of the other parents, because you hear the other kids on the Zoom, and the other ones you can still hear their baby selves. You know, are either of you dads?
No.
So a thing happens.
They would not. No, like the government would intervene, and they'd be like, "No, not going to happen, guys."
So here's the thing that happens. Is quite. It's I think one reason we were talking before we went live about, you know, resisting encroaching conservatism in your life. And I'm the same way with sentimentality. It's like, I don't want to become over sentimental. Doesn't mean I don't want to feel things, you know, but I think that sort of sentimentality, that nostalgia that infects people, where they start talking about how, you know, well, music is good now, but you weren't around when Kill Taker came out, man. It's like, you want to avoid that stance at all costs, right? It's like, do not become the guy for whom music ended at a certain point in your life, right? That's really super important to me. And the same with any popular culture thing. If it was better when you were younger, that's because you stopped paying attention, right? So, and that's really my opinion. But I get how people get like that. And I also get how now, when your children are no longer babies, right? There's a piece of you that goes, where'd the baby go? It was great having a baby around. And it takes them so long to get out of that, right? First they're babies, then they toddle, right? And they still have these fat cheeks and everything. And that baby energy is just like, so there's something very drug-like about it, which is why you become pretty narcotized when you're a parent to the outside world, right? And then at some point they're not babies anymore. And you really yourself become a child, and you go, hey, somebody took the baby. Where'd the baby go? I get to hang with babies. That's part of what I get to do, you know, is I get this energy. So when my younger son is in class, the other kids still sound way more baby than he does. And I'm sitting there going, oh, God, I'm pleased to hear these childlike voices next to my son who wants to talk about the rules of chess.
And he's asking you to like wash his monocle like during this.
He's very. We were playing NHL Monopoly this yesterday, which is the same as Monopoly, but you're buying the NHL franchises, and his grasp of property development is frankly frightening. It's like I get the feeling like he has a running tab of our assets somewhere up in his room.
He's going to help you look through a remortgage on the house, all sorts of stuff.
Well, I fear actually for his state of mind because, as I say, I haven't been able to actually work, for pay since March. So I don't want him to get nervous or anything. So.
Oh, yeah. Do you think your son could feel the economic winds?
That is one of the things that happens in times of economic depression is the children just soak up the anxiety. And if parents aren't careful about where and when they talk about it, the kids will go like, are we going to go broke?
Yeah. So I had a friend and we were in high school and we had a super friendly game of poker going on with maybe 6 other friends. And we were playing for $2. And this kid lost and he pushed all of his chips into the middle of the table. I come from like a upper middle class, somewhat wealthy neighborhood. He pushed all of his chips into the middle of the table and yelled, "I'm playing with money I can't afford to lose," and ran out of the room.
Oh my God.
$2, right? And we had no idea what was going on, right? And
that's like a huge moment. That's incredible.
He made a really big show of it. And what ended up happening was that his dad had got furloughed or laid off from some extremely high-paid job. They were completely fine.
But for him, that's the thing. I bet Dad was every day going, "It's like, I don't know how we're going to make this work. I don't know how we're going to make this work." It's like it's funny. It's like I'm having to be really conscious. I mean, then I'm very lucky that I have 2 gigs, and so I fret. But I'm not at the point of being at the dinner table going, "Okay, guys, I want you all to put some newspaper in your shoes."
But his father's concerns he realized that he had made his family's situation worse by losing these $2.
That's deeply.
You should have seen the house this kid grew up into. It looks like a plantation. They were not in any real trouble.
And if he took you guys to the cleaners in that poker game, was he going to go back home with $8 and be like, "Dad, we're fine, man. It's all good"?
I love that you remember the exact line. "I'm playing with money I can't afford to lose."
Well, it became a big joke in our group because because he shouted, "I'm playing with money I can't afford to lose," and it was $2. It was like, dude, look, we're all we bought a pizza for the game and stuff. It's like you probably made the $2 back eating the slice of pizza we gave you. Try to relax.
To point that would have helped to point that. Hey, come back! You already ate your weight in pizza.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I don't know how I would be as a father. I don't know if any of my concerns would rub off on my children. My children probably be 5 years old being like, "I need to start a company. Why am I not starting more companies?" So that's all I talk about.
It's funny. I've already lived through the transition where my younger son, everything I'm into, he's super into. And then at some point you go, "Hey, check this out." And they give you a look like, no, I want to figure stuff out myself. If you're telling me about it, that's not what I'm looking for. And it's really funny how you have to finesse something that you think that they'll like, right? And if you recommend it too strongly, then they're just automatically going to go, "Okay, well, look, you're you." So, and it's like this morning, I got him to listen to an Iron Maiden track that I knew he was going to like. He's very into power metal stuff, right? But if you go, "Hey, come check this one out. It's Arion." If you do it wrong, he's like, "Okay, you're trying to sell me something here, and I'm not buying any of it." So.
Yeah, it's interesting. You don't want him to rebel against your taste or whatever. My dad, when I was growing up, he had a huge wall of records, and we had a jukebox in the house. So music was always part of it, and he was always showing me different stuff. And my older brother showed me punk. That's how I got into it.
Well, Patton Oswalt has a great bit about how you can't be a cool dad or else your kid's going to turn out, not how you want them. You have to be like the stodgy 1950s parent in order for your kid
you can try,
to come
but
out
the
great.
thing is, if you work in the entertainment business, you're not going to be able to help that you have cooler stuff in the house than you had growing up. I'm also very lucky that my father was a jazz musician. He was on the squarer side of things, but not, as rock developed, but still I was exposed to a lot of stuff through him. And my stepfather, for all his foibles, he was connected. I got into some good stuff on his watch also.
Mm-hmm. Didn't I believe it was your stepfather who started to take you to pro wrestling events, isn't that right?
Yep, that's right. I mean, it was my idea to go. The story with that is that I was watching it on TV, right? It was on UHF channels, on channel 52 and channel 34. 34 was KMEX, Southern California, legendary Spanish language channel, still around. 52, I think it was KDOC. It has changed a couple times. But channel 34, Canal 34, KMEX, right? It was the most amazing channel. And their wrestling broadcast was Saturday nights for an hour and a half, which was just like heaven if you were into it, because the English language broadcast was truncated and far more managed, right? It was good. But the announcer for Southern California, he's a legendary guy, and actually his son interviewed me when Beat the Champ came out, and I was like fanning out. I couldn't believe, like, your dad is that guy? Because I learned a fair bit of my Spanish watching that, right? It was like, and so anyway, so I was watching this and getting super into it. Like, it was just very appealing to me and getting wrestling magazines. And my stepfather said, my father was a wrestling promoter in Indiana. He would tell me the stories about the super old school wrestlers from the 50s, like Dick the Bruiser and Haystacks Calhoun, right?
Yeah.
He had seen all those guys when he was a kid. So he started taking me into LA to the Olympic Auditorium and the family, and we would go on, I feel like it was Wednesdays and then Saturdays, and we went to several cards, three or four times, I think.
Did you get your son into wrestling?
I haven't yet. I mean, the one thing at their age, one's 9 and the other's 5. If you show a 5-year-old wrestling, he will go to school and flip his friends, right? Like, I know this from.
Let's try the pile driver. Yeah.
Did you guys play the last Zelda game, the Breath of the Wild? Not Breath of the Wild.
No, I've heard it's incredibly good though. So
it's good. I usually don't play. I mean, I barely play anything anymore. But when a new Zelda game comes out, I tend to get it. And if the kids are around, you try and focus on the quests where nobody's hitting anybody with anything, and But there's this mechanic, I forget what it's called, but where you can sort of create a magical bomb that you then set down someplace, or you roll it and it explodes, rocks that need to be moved out of the way or whatever. And I think it's called stasis for whatever reason. But so I was doing this, and some of the bombs are circular, and some of them are shaped a little like a suitcase, right? And the suitcase one is when you need to place it and have it not move, and the round ones are if you need to roll it down a hill or something, right? So he saw me play this one time. The next day, he's at preschool using his lunchbox as an explosive device. So they pick up things pretty quick.
They shut down the school. There's a bomb squad. Super, yeah.
That actually happened at Claremont High School in 83 or 84 when I was going there. There was a attaché case on top of the admin building, and they moved us all out to the sidewalk.
What is that, attaché case? What was that?
It's just a briefcase, like attaché. Not a briefcase, but the type that you would carry. There's another term for them.
They thought it was a bomb?
Yeah. They thought, it was just, it was like a mysterious, I don't know if there'd been a note or anything, but it was a mysterious case on top of the admin building, and so we all had to go out to the sidewalk, and they brought in a bomb squad, and they detonated it. and a bunch of paper flew out, so there must have been a note inside, right? But that was that. The
time that you were going to those wrestling shows really early, I think that was back when you could watch it on TV for like a month, but then they would all lead up to a big local event that wasn't on TV. Isn't that right? Like my dad would tell me, like, Haystacks Calhoun would be feuding against someone for weeks on TV, and then they'd be like, "You got to go to the Cow Palace this Sunday." They settle the whole thing, and then that wouldn't be recorded. If you were going to see it, you had to see it live, and it would say no TV on the program, right? Yeah.
Like that was part of the sell, was like, you are not going to see this, and it won't be filmed. Which, I'm me. I have a whole weird shtick about how it's great if there's more things that aren't recorded and aren't documented, right? That live in memory or don't live at all, right? And that's kind of stuff I'm really into, which means, of course, that I live in hell now. But yeah, it's like these matches you see. They go into world.
I'm just thinking of you as like the anti Ian MacKay, like burning your tapes of your own band's live recordings and stuff
You're
instead of
goddamn
archiving
right,
them.
man. That's what you got to do. You got to torch it. You got to tell the story, right? And so I do not preserve the archive.
You have like a foundation you started that unarchives it.
Yeah, that's right.
Send in the tapes and we'll digitize
disappear.
them, and then you just burn them.
Yeah, it's weird because I'm not that way with pictures. Everything exists photographically forever. But like there was a period in my life where I didn't let anybody take pictures of me. And so literally, as far as I know, there's maybe 3 pictures of me from about a 4-year period of my life. I think that's cool, right? I like that. That pleases me.
Hey, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story that's really going to get you going then. I feel horrible about this. I'm a young kid. I'm maybe 14. But I'm well known in my family for being like the computer whiz, right?
Right.
And my mom gets a new computer, and she's like, "I need you to like transfer all of my files from my old computer to my new computer." Now,
is this an IBM? Are you like a kid who's like able to be moving stuff around, or what are you doing?
This is like it's a laptop. I mean, this is it's. But they're like she's like the only files I care about are. We've got like 10 years of digital family photos on this laptop from this digital camera.
I like where this is going.
Right. And so I said, "Don't worry, Mom. I got it. No problem." This is a decade plus of trips, people's entire childhoods growing up. Long story short, not only did I delete the photos, I also reformatted the hard drive so that you couldn't undelete them.
Holy shit.
On accident.
And there was no way to take it to anybody? They're all just gone forever?
There was no way to take it to anyone, and pretty much all I did was like I moved the folder called photos onto the new computer, but the folder was empty. So there was like this glimmer of hope that there was going to be photos in there. And for years, I felt horrible about it, and I thought about how I could go back in there and get the old pictures off. But I was really young, so I think I never acted on it, and now that computer's probably gone. And so there's whole trips my family took that are just. I mean, we talk about the trips. Hey, remember when we went here? Remember when we went here?
But you do talk about the trips.
We talk about the trips.
The pictures are fine, but they're not the trip, really. The trip is the memory of what you did. I mean, having said that, like, I got 2 kids. I would go, God, if all those pictures went away right now, I would have a very severe. Because
I deleted my little brother from like 6 to 12 is just gone. That's me.
He wasn't a baby anymore. It's all right. No, the thing is, like, my older son, he loves to play with computers, and he deleted a whole bunch of stuff one day, and I was like, dude, those were and we spent 3 hours, but because of Time Machine and stuff, we were able to go and get them all back. It wasn't a catastrophic loss, but he likes to delete stuff. Oh my God, he's so he likes to play video games too, and if you leave him alone with the video game, he is as likely, just for the pleasure of the sound of the deleting, I think, or something, to delete like months of progress. And that's the stuff that will really get you going. Is like, no, because they're kids, right? So they can't yet finish the games. I'm often playing old games to finish them for them, right? It's like they want me to finish Luigi's Mansion. Cool. I love Luigi's Mansion. Great game, right? You play it. But it's also, these old games, you have to grind it out, right? It takes a while. And if you show up and go, where'd the file go? Buddy, where did the file go? No, I am not starting Luigi's Mansion from the beginning.
My first job was babysitting my neighbors, and they would make me play games for them. They couldn't get past certain levels. I remember playing like Star Wars Battlefront. They're like, "Hey, we need you to get past this level." And then my time babysitting them was like I would go over to my neighbor's house and play video games to get paid for it.
Yeah, no, this is our lives right now. Is like that's why I'm actually. It does lead you to a funny place as a parent where you apologize for not having played more video games today, right? It's like, I'm sorry, the Mountain Goats took over my life, and so we're not going to finish Paper Mario, the older Paper Mario, which we have to finish before we can play the new one. But everybody's excited to play the new one.
You're doing like the retro. You're doing like the retro games with them.
So yeah, both my kids are Mario fiends. The whole Mario universe is a very big thing for them, and so yeah, we're doing the original Paper Mario. You're not a video game podcast, and so I feel bad that there's so much of this is going to be video game based.
I'm a big video gamer.
So here's the thing. Years ago, when we weren't parents and we played, I'm a very casual gamer. I don't play multiplayer online, and I don't care to. But I'm a platformer guy, right? So So we played when we first moved here. What's it called? The 64,000 Year Door, right? The Mario paper game. We played that. We loved it, right? And we finished it, right? And then one day I'm cleaning house about 8 or 9 years ago. I'm like, how likely am I to play this game again? Let me go get some credit from GameStop and trade it on in. So I don't even have any idea what I got for it. Fast forward 9 years, I have 2 kids who are Mario fiends. And I'm like, oh, cool. We'll go get the 64,000 Year Door. No, you won't. You sold it, and that thing costs like $100
really
used. It's like, oh, it's a gem. So it's one of the ones you cannot get for cheap. So I was like, you dummy, this is your lesson. You do not sell your video games. But yeah, so we're doing the old Paper Mario ahead of the new one, which looks pretty good. Paper Mario is a great franchise.
I just set up my N64 in my living room.
We had one in the basement. That was sort of their gateway drug.
I try not to sell my old consoles, but I grew up in a big extended Catholic family, so my mom would just like give the old consoles to my cousins and stuff, and I'd be like, "Where's my Dreamcast?" And then,
man,
yeah, it wasn't
man.
there.
That's rough. Yeah, all my comic books. I was a comic book collector just when Chris Claremont was making his Bonds, right? The Claremont, Byrne, Ditko Infantino era, that kind of stuff. Jim Starlin, and all those got given away to somebody.
Some lucky cousin, yeah. It was like, I think my GameCube got given away, my Dreamcast, my PlayStation.
Wow.
I'm sure, it's good to help out your cousins, right?
The Jaguar was the system I was super curious about, but like it's now too late to find out if they would have felt cool, because when you play them now, you just notice how jaggy they are. That's the other thing is.
What is Jaguar? Is Jaguar before Sega Saturn? Is that what that one is?
I think it's right around the same time, and I think it's like a sort of a juiced 8-bit. It might actually be a 16-bit. I'm not sure. I forget who made it. I'm kind of into the idea of failed platforms. Ones that didn't get. I gotta be like in my most major prognostication fail. I remember when Xbox was new, and most of the reviews were like, "This is not that good," right? And I was like, "Ooh, is Microsoft gonna just take a dive here?" And instead, like they're pretty dominant. But yeah, the
Jaguar was made by Atari, and it was 1993 that came out. So I do remember having a couple of my more wealthy friends around town picked up the Jaguar and being ultra jealous, and then it just disappeared as quick as it came.
I now know why I never got one of those, because I had a good paying job from 88 to 92, right? And then I was going to Pitzer College in Claremont, and I could not get a student loan while I was making the money that I was making as a nurse. But I also didn't want to just be giving every penny I made to the college. I wanted to get a loan so that I could then not have to be writing them a check for $2,000 every month, right? So I quit my job and I moved back in with mom, right? And I got a loan, right? But now I don't have any money at all, right? They give me the loan, I buy my books, and I'm just living with mom, and I'm doing that for a couple of years, right? And that's when the Super Nintendo came out, and that's when the Jaguar came out, and that's when the Saturn came out, and I didn't have a dime. So I didn't get to play any of those systems at all. The next system I got after my Nintendo 8-bit was the 64.
So you got a degree instead of all your favorite gaming consoles.
I got a degree instead of getting good at video games.
Kind of a rough trade. I don't know if that was worth it.
But at least I went into a lot of debt. But the other thing is, like, so here's what happened is I had my 8-bit at my mom's house. I played a bunch of weird, secondary developer 8-bit games that amused me fine. I once found a copy of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out lying in the street, right? Somebody had just dropped it. I played the hell out of that thing. It was like, cool, free game. And
someone just couldn't figure out the trick of the fucking first fight, and they just throw it out their window, or what?
Who was that? That was I have no idea. I wonder. It's like my theory actually is that they got up to Mr. Sandman and said, "Okay, no, I can't do this." Because
I'm not a huge gamer guy, but my ultimate gaming quest was beating Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I had a witness from Glass Joe to Mike Tyson with no cheats, no nothing, just straight through. Glass Joe beat Mike Tyson
in one playthrough.
I was able to retire from gaming fully after that, knowing that I've accomplished
the pinnacle.
the pinnacle, Nintendo, Nintendo games, sports
I feel like
games.
I'm watching.
I feel like I'm watching
a
a Netflix documentary about like
these
OG arcade gamers and their high scores.
Okay, I swear I was talking about something video games, but I don't remember if Nintendo version. I played Punch Out before it was Mike Tyson's Punch Out. When Punch Out, it was a giant arcade cabinet. Really cool game. It was a better game than Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Big buttons that really felt you felt pretty immersed. But the great
you letting the sentimentalism creep in that you said you were going to. Punch Out's better than Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Well, but no, that's where I want to draw a distinction. Being interested in something in the past is not saying if you play this game now, it's clunky. You're not going to have that experience, right? Because the form has grown. But at the time, it seemed quite forward-looking. Big cabinet. You felt like you were dwarfed by these visuals. That's something to remember. It's not. We don't have to be all 90s about the past and say it's funny because it was more primitive. It's interesting space. It's just like it's not better. It's almost never. Past is almost all uniformly worse than the present.
John, do you remember
Sega Channel?
No, I remember Sega Center, which was a place that I would go to play games before there were home consoles. Sega got their start as just pinball. What was Sega's channel?
Sega Channel was this thing that it doesn't sound real, but I remember it because it came into it. It was my neighbor had it. Sega Channel was Sega Channel. Call up. It was. This must have been like 99-ish.
This must have been like 99-ish.
And they would run a wire to your home.
And they would run a wire to your home.
The back of your
that connected to the back of your
Genesis.
Sega
and streamed games to you.
Streamed
I know that sounds weird. It doesn't sound real.
I know that sounds weird. It doesn't sound real.
You could like download games or something.
You could like download games
that they would run to your home
through this cable.
And it was really expensive. And there was some sort of additional installation.
And there was some sort of
I think they installed a hard drive in your house.
I think they installed a hard drive in your house. So there's like another component.
So they ran a cable.
So they ran a cable.
And maybe the cable is just connected to like it was probably connected
and maybe
to
the cable is just connected to like it was probably connected to the telephone.
It went from the telephone cable to this hard drive.
It went from the telephone cable to this hard drive.
To I think a coaxial cable in the back of the Sega Genesis.
To I think a coaxial cable in the back of the Sega Genesis.
It was a monthly subscription.
And it was a monthly subscription.
I remember my neighbor had it, and you could turn it on.
I remember my neighbor had it, and you could turn it on, and it looked like primitive Netflix screen with all these different games, and you could just click the game, and then it would like download the game.
It must have felt like paradise.
It was insane.
It must have felt like paradise.
It was like it was so far ahead of its time. This is like
it was so far ahead of its time.
This is like up on the telephone. This is back when you had to
call up on the telephone, like the cable company to order a pay-per-view and stuff. But meanwhile, you could like flip through games on your Sega channel.
December '94.
It's funny how
December '94.
Phone-based back then. If you got stuck like in a Nintendo game, there was Nintendo hotline. There was somebody published a story on this. Somebody published a story not long ago about how they worked. Not long ago about how they worked. About how they worked 10 years ago. At the Nintendo hotline. I was a Nintendo hotline. Joel. I was a grown-up. Me and my friend Joel would get stuck and call them up. Hey, what are we supposed to do? Call them up. And they would hey, what are we supposed to do? And they would be really serious about it. They go, oh, have you in the north corner of the room yet? Looked over the north corner of the room. Would you please tell me what to do? You'd be like, would you please tell me what to do? You might want to check out the north corner of the room. You can call back.
They don't want to spoil it for you. That's funny. They don't want to spoil it for you. That's funny.
It was some guy with a big bag of Doritos. Some guy with a Budweiser Doritos. Yeah, maybe the Budweiser. Give me a holler. Yeah, maybe the north corner of the room. Give me a holler.
I remember watching WCW as a kid. They had wrestling hotlines, and you could like talk to Mike Tenay, and he was going to give you the scoop about what Canyon and Raven were up to or whatever. It's like
hotlines are
$10 a minute or something.
I use phones a lot in my books, and then not in my songs because in a song, if somebody says phone, then you know you are one line away from alone, right? Mm-hmm. And so you always want to avoid that when you can. But I think about it, and the phone is like a lost world. It's like to describe the notion of waiting for a phone call means something so qualifiably different from what it would have meant narratively.
I still think it's funny that whenever you sign up for anything, there's a slot for your home phone number. It's like the percentages of people who are filling out their home phone numbers has to be dropping, right? Most people just have one cell phone.
No, that's right. But those forms will always be those that will be on the form until the kingdom comes. You know?
Yeah. I know that you're a Dungeons and Dragons fan, and I've seen you. I think you played some with like Noisy back. I used to write for Noisy as a freelancer.
I did a Noisy thing just a couple of years ago up in Toronto. Yeah.
I was wondering if you ever played Warhammer 40K or Warhammer.
No, I am not a Warhammer guy, and that's not to say that I don't, that I have anything against it. I've just never played it. I like to think about it though, because its feel is kind of, it feels much more like, I'm sure there's plenty of bleed through from the D&D crowd to the Warhammer crowd, but it does feel like the sort of thing that these dudes could be. Yeah, no, I do Warhammer. I don't do your thing, right? Mm-hmm. Which I kind of like things like that.
Mm-hmm. It is a little bit of a different group. The Warhammer group's like, it's a little more competitive. I think Dungeons and Dragons is more of like you're enjoying it with your friends. You're going on a journey. Warhammer is a little bit more like, I fucking beat you. Look, you're within 6 inches of the blast radius. Don't fucking lie,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Warhammer seems more mathematical, right? It's like it's more about. It's like a proper war simulation, where war simulations are about drawing up numbers and looking at battlefields and trying to sort of, they're proto-computer. Like they're like a simulation, right? And so they're trying to say what happens.
It's a fucking horrific game to play. It's like the fat rule book and just like rulers and blast radiuses. It's a joke.
Yeah, when I play games, it's like, I know guys who, my friend Clinton, who introduced me to tabletop gaming after I wrote Wolf and White Van. He was like, "Oh, if you want to play, I have a crew that I do that with." I was like, "Sure, let's do that." And I became a guy who plays. He is one of those guys who can look at a rule set and get 100% of it. Right? Mm-hmm. Just I've watched him do it, where he reads the set and everybody else is going, "I'm not quite sure how this game works," and he looks at it for a minute and he goes, "Okay, I got it," and explains something that was absolutely, completely incomprehensible to everybody else at the table, right, until then.
Yeah. I was me and my friends would play some absolutely botched barbaric version of the rule set because we just didn't understand it, So it's just like,
that's the best kind. It's the best. The all house rules is the best rule.
Yeah, it's like, actually, you know what? Instead of like having army sizes that are equivalent, let's just, every character you got can play. Let's whoever has the most
stuff like that. I mean, games like that are made for that. I don't know anything about the Warhammer designers, but I suspect they'd be like, "No, you should play it how you like. You should play it how it's fun for you." You know,
that's kind of like the Magic the Gathering mana drop, right? It's like there's that thing where when you're playing Magic, there's some rule set I used to always play where, like, whenever you have mana, you just immediately get to drop it and redraw, so like speeds up the game.
Can I be 10,000% real with you?
Yeah, what's up?
I'm playing Magic as we speak. We were mid conversation. I was like, I bet I can get a quick game in, and now I'm getting owned. I'm getting completely. There's a guy milling me. I'm very angry about it, to be honest with you.
Are you playing the arena?
Yeah.
You know who else is playing that? Is Lars Fredrickson from Rancid.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Should we set up a Hard Times former podcast guest game that we live stream, you versus Lars?
Fun. That would be fun. I keep my handle a closely guarded secret so people can't see how dumb my decks are.
What color do you play?
So right now I'm playing a red, blue, white thing, which is, I think, is that Naya in the old way of I think that's right. A Narset deck. It has been firing really great. It is not great against mill. And everybody is milling these days. It's very mill archetypes are really strong right now. Which to me is only really interesting if you built one yourself. Like the mill decks that are around right now are super aggressive, and they're not. I mean, I play too much control to complain about getting milled, but it's like, if you go, here's my feeling about mill decks, and if you are listening to this and you're like, why aren't they talking about something I'm actually interested in? A mill deck is a game where you're just trying to get your opponent to throw his cards away, because if it's your turn to play and you can't draw a card, then you lose. That's one of the rules of the game, right? So that's what mill decks do. This guy just brought out his third Teferi's Tutelage, and I'm going to concede this game. But
I used to play a green. I was
green is cool.
I was young.
I generally prefer black. I like black red. I like black blue a lot. But I've had the most success with blue-white control, which is like an evil way to play. You just tax people. You prevent them from being able to cast spells, and you make them put their stuff back in their hand. That's what I'm most successful with. But I prefer to play sacrifice decks where you get benefit or cast damage by killing your own creatures, right? So I like those. That should not be surprising to anybody.
That's some apocalypto shit.
That's the best to me.
So when I
I'm no longer playing Magic. If you're keeping track, I conceded the game and I have now left the room.
I had to walk away from it.
The thing is getting milled when you're talking. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So playing mill decks, if you're doing it at your local game store, right? I feel like there's a sort of a social prohibition against being an aggro mill player. Like a person will say, "Do you want to play?"
Come on, man.
Well, no, there is. I feel like a guy will look at you like, if I see you and you offer me a game and I know you're going to mill me, I'm probably going to say, "Nah, you already milled me once. I don't feel like playing you again. Sorry, nothing personal." And I would say that to a person's face. On Arena, you may remember your opponent's names, but you don't know what deck they're playing or anything. You're probably not even looking at their handle that hard. You're just playing, right?
Yeah, and that's a real thing. Yeah, that's that happens in online poker too. So in online poker, you can beat a guy and then just leave. You can take $1,000 from him and then leave. In real life, you cannot leave the table after you just won $1,000.
That's real bad manners.
You have to give the guy a crack at taking a little bit of it back, right? If he's stuck and he's down money tonight, you got to let him play a little bit, and if you don't, there might be a fist fight. He might key your car. It's like people get upset. That won't
happen at Magic, but the social pressure is enough, right? The social pressure is enough that I just feel like people, they don't want to be told no. If people say, "Hey, can I play?" and you go, "No, you play that deck that's a total asshole deck. I'm not going to play it." Then they will play something else. They'll give you a chance. Although I think for modern players, the style called modern, that has a much larger card set, I think actually it's a point of pride to have the deck that stymies the opponent the most, right? The deck you just can't, I don't know if you know what a Llanowar Elves deck is, but the second it gets going, you never get to take another turn again. You just watch this guy take multiple turns and then it's over.
It's kind of like in pool when they just run the table.
Yeah. No, it's not fun. It's like, why'd you ask me to play? You can do this by yourself.
The point is you have to watch and learn to love it.
The fun is the look on your face.
Every game that I play, I end up doing kind of well, like StarCraft 2 or whatever, or Valorant. I start doing pretty well. And then they make a patch note and it's like, clearly the style that Matt was playing was overpowered and we have tweaked it accordingly and nerfed whatever Matt was doing. And then I never recover. I'm just not a good player. All I can do is I can just find hey, if I play this one character and use this one gun, I do well. And then a couple months go by and they say, "Yeah, we changed that gun. That gun is unfair." And then that's it. In StarCraft 2, I used to always play Terran and I would use siege tanks and Marines. And it was I was crushing. I was climbing the ranks. I was competitively ranked in the US.
Nostalgia. I feel you going, "Oh God, the days of Terran, man, I was absolutely murdering it."
I was fucking crushing people.
I believe you.
And then it turned out it had nothing to do with me. And just one simple tweak to the siege tank and I'm back down in the fucking noob leagues. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
No, the opposite is what's going on in Magic right now. Yesterday was the ban announcement, and there were several cards that people would really like to see banned because they're disrupting the meta severely. It's everybody, and I can't understand this. Everybody wants to play these decks that do nothing but win. That is not interesting to me. I would rather lose 5 games in a row with something that I kind of find interesting than just come out and go. I mean, it's really it's the reason why good action movies are better than bad ones. In a bad one, you go, well, this one guy has a Tommy gun, right? And everybody else has a water pistol. So of course the Tommy gun beat the water pistol. No problem, right? And go ahead.
That's there was a game, I think Cool Borders 2 and some games after it had style points was something that they highlighted in their game. And it was it's not just about doing a 900, it's about doing a 900 in a cool way, in a deliberate
this is really
fashion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If here's the thing, if Magic Arena had something like that where you'd get greater gain for doing something with style, for me, I'd be like, good, because you're going to love my decks because they're all stupid, but when they work, they're fun, right?
And it's cool to see them work. It's kind of like Crazy Taxi when you skim by.
I think 80% of players would be so angry about style points. It's it's not about style points. It's about winning games.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm always a sucker for that stuff.
That's like it's like a weird sort of, I don't know. I grew up like skateboarding, and so when you are a skateboarder, you're just used to failure all the time because you try for an hour, hurt, your shins are bloody, and then you land a trick once, and that feeling is so great that you're just like, oh, that is all I needed. And that's kind of
I have never ascended. I have picked up my skateboard as you say this, and I have never ascended to the level you're talking about. All I do is sit there and go, well, technically that's not ollie yet. Nope, that's not one either. And that's all I do. I've been trying to ollie for a decade now.
Well, once you finally get that, once you get that ollie, you're gonna feel so great, and then it's gonna be euphoric. But there is like some, having that in me. It's just like I will play like a game of basketball against somebody, like a pickup game of basketball that's way better than me, and he'll beat the crap out of me. But it's like, hey, I got 1 point on you. I got one point, and and that's all that matters to me.
I relate to that so strongly. It's like you did the thing that you were trying to do that nobody else. It's not like you did it with somebody else's hands. You used your hands to sink it, and you got the two, right? So,
yeah, I've been thinking about this thing. You guys just talk about skateboarding. I read a lot about how young women growing up, they face all these unrealistic standards of beauty and stuff, and it's definitely very true, especially like Instagram. Like all these like face-tuned models and stuff. And I think the boy version of that was growing up and getting a skateboard and thinking that I should be able to do a 900 right off the bat.
I grew up in Southern California. I was just like, you know what? I know this isn't me. My friends were getting into it. I was like, I am just going to get embarrassed if I get on these. And so I never learned. And now like my tour manager and producer, Brandon Eggleston, actually used to go out on tour with some West Coast skateboarders in the Pacific Northwest. He's like, he was good. And he like, if Nate Sherwood is, him and Nate Sherwood grew up together. And Nate is an amazing skateboarder who runs a shop in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And like, I bring the board out. I go, Brandon, show me how to ollie it. All him and all his bros like, oh, I can teach you ollie in 5 minutes. And like half an hour later, he's like, will you keep trying?
I can't really ollie. I tried to ollie in front of you, Bill. Like I can ollie maybe once out of every 20 times or something.
Yeah, I mean.
But yeah, when I'm touring, I skateboard in parking garages and stuff. It's an after the show sort of cool way to let down. And now I'm pushing it back and forth on the porch here.
Or do you have like a cruiser board? What do you have set up underneath you?
It's Indie Trucks. I can't remember who these wheels are. Nate Sherwood actually set it up himself at his shop at EduSkate in Cedar Rapids. So it's a normal street board. It's got the tail up on either side and Indie Trucks and some cool green wheels. I should know what the wheels are, but I'm not sure.
I had Spitfire wheels, right? Wasn't that the wheel brand that people like?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Matt, you're up in the Bay Area, so yeah, Spitfire is kind of you have to skate Spitfire up there, or else you're just.
Is it a regional thing?
Deluxe brands are located in San Francisco, and Spitfire's their wheels. But so like Real Skateboards, Anti-Hero, they're all Deluxe brands. And
this will tell you how very old I am. When I was a kid is when skateboarding was first taking off. Like it's like just a little after Stacy Peralta and those guys were doing stuff. And the wheels that were the biggest deal when I was like 9, that everybody who was going to be anybody had was either Bones or OJs. Right. Are either of those still around or no?
Yeah. OJs are still. They're pretty. They kind of made a resurgence. I mean, I think OJs makes most of their money doing like a lot of longboard stuff.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But Bones, yeah, they're still around. They're still kicking. I mean, Bones is mainly a bearings thing now. For the the Bones Swiss bearing is the pinnacle of all skateboard bearings. So,
no kidding.
At least in my opinion, but what do I know?
This is stuff I like to hear about all the time. Is like I really have major skateboard envy because if I get some speed going, and it's the older you are, the little more dangerous it is to wipe out. But it really just feels so amazing. It's like it's something I really fucked up by not doing when I was a kid. It was like, well, you didn't, you felt intimidated by the whole scene, so you didn't bother with it. And it's like I get it when I don't know if you saw this movie Minding the Gap that Bing Liu made.
Oh yeah, great documentary.
So they used the Mountain Goat song at the end, and so I happened to see this movie, and that movie conveys that feeling of freedom, and it's like it's so exactly like writing music. It's like you have a space that you go to where all the other stuff just sort of drops off, and now you're doing this, right? And that's something that video games like sort of seem to sort of promise, but you don't get free from the world in a video game for me, right? Whereas with skating, it looks like, it always feels like when I'm getting up ahead of steam, like if I could do this, if I could do an hour-long skate. And right now, actually, I do running. I'm up to like half marathons, and I get that. You get that freedom feel. It's like nothing in the world. I still intend at some point to get actual visible air. This is actually my soul. My soul. Like people have goals that they want to go to Russia or wherever, or go to climb K2. It's like mine is like, I'm gonna do one, and you're gonna see it.
Ollie a soda can.
One of these days.
Also, something I notice about skating, and when I think about how I didn't get into it enough, skaters are irresistible to women. That's my personal view.
Hold on, no, there's like a graph of how this works. Like high school, it's nothing. After high school, it starts to climb. Like early 20s, it's peaking, but then as soon as you hit 30, it craters and then flatlines so hard. Like I'm 36.
So you're saying
right
once
now,
you're 30, if you're still skating, then it's a red flag, and women are avoiding it.
You're doing it for you at this point. There is no like I'm a cool person anymore. I'm 36 now, and like I go to the skate park and there's like 12-year-olds there, and they look at me like, "What are you doing?" You know, it's like I'm.
I think if you're like 15 and you start going to the skate park and you stay there until you're like 25, it's impossible that you'll be a virgin. You don't need to do anything else. Just skate. Personal opinion, but
I mean it's not entirely wrong. I mean there is a built-in social circle, and yeah, the certain people can play it up. A lot of skateboarders quit, around there's the age 16 when you get a car, you quit. There's 18 when you graduate high school, you quit. 21 when you can start drinking, you quit. And then after that, it's steep. You got a couple more years of good times, and then once 30 comes, though, it's like my wife does not associate with me if I have like a skateboard in my hand. Like she's like, I'm just gonna cross the street, you can walk on this side, like, and I'm gonna pretend not to know you.
Man, they remain very cool for me. We've had. Remember last time we were on tour, we were all skating down a parking garage in Madison, and I was like, there's a part of you that goes, if we get injured and have to cancel the tour, it's the coolest way to have to cancel the tour.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yes, skateboard injuries will always be cool. I will see that. Because you have to assume that something went into it.
Oh, this scar? What did I do? Well, I was just taking a really big risk just to see if I could do something. I was trespassing
off the second floor of my own house.
Yeah. That's a man who gets things done. I like that guy. John, tell me about that book that you said that you're writing and what you're up to right now.
Oh, so the thing is, I shouldn't have said that because I never talk about the actual content of what I'm writing. Is like because then people get expectations,
because it's all about skating, the whole thing.
It is. It's a history of skate. No, it's a novel. I do novels. Past that, I mean, the reason you don't talk about stuff, I think, has to do with how if you say you're doing something, there's a lot of sort of public thinkers, I guess I don't want to say intellectuals, but who will talk about how the 90s sort of left this mark on discourse where everything gets ironic very fast, right? So if you say you're writing a book about a subject, right, everybody's first response will be to make the joke about it, right? Immediately, right? Nobody will go, oh, wow, what's that going to be like? No, and that's fine. It's human, right? But if I do that and then I get wind of the jokes, which I will because we live in hell and we're all on social media, including me all the time, 24 hours a day, right? If I do that, then that will get into my brain, right? It's like,
you definitely should not, if you're worried about people making jokes about things, definitely do not tell me and Bill, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is like, you do this for a living, right? It's like, if I tell you what I'm writing about, if I say, oh, well, it's about the World War I dead. It'll take you about 5 minutes to come up with some good WW1 shtick, and then we're done. So yeah. But beyond that, it's like there's this sort of sense of when you're writing a book or an album, you want to guard it so that by the time you share it, it's sort of lived a time where it was just you and the subject, and that's sort of how it maintains its sort of its identity.
So from that, I'm going to take that it's a Trump tell-all book. right?
I'm actually ghostwriting his post-presidential book is what I'm doing. I'm ashamed of the gig, but it paid really well.
Is there anything else that you're up to that you want to tell our people about that they could go check out?
I have a new album coming out.
Tell us about it.
It's called Getting Into Knives, which I'm extremely proud of the title and of the title track, which is the last song on the record. And that title had been sitting in a notebook for a long time, right? Mm-hmm. And I keep titles, and some of them I'll look at them and I'll go like, man, that title went in there in 2007, and you still haven't landed on the day where you were where it's going to make it happen, you know. But the kids are home. Sorry, it's going to be a little louder.
That's okay.
So
it's part of it.
But I'll be going like, where is it? Find my notebooks here. There we go. There's the Rodeo Queen notebook. I bought that thing in California in like 2004. Yeah, the first two titles have ever been used: Roll On Nuclear War and Blunt Instrument Rag. Right, neither of those have ever been used, and they've been in there for over a decade. The third one, though, September 15th, 1983. That was on a 2008 album, Lovecraft in Brooklyn, same record. Wizard Buys a Hat, the greatest song title I will ever write. Put it out there. Stench of the Unburied. Did I do Stench of the Unburied? Yeah, that's on it's on Goths, right? But on the other hand, Source Near Jutland, I don't think it's ever going to happen. So, but Getting Into Knives was one of those that had like been in the notebook for a long time. And I was like, with the ones you really like, you're sort of afraid to try it because what if you write Getting Into Knives, it's not that good. Well, if you're me, and I consider this as sort of a Catholic tendency, if you're me and you write Getting Into Knives and the song isn't good, you don't get to throw that away and write another one called Getting Into Knives. You already did that one and you failed, right? So that's what you did, right? With your good title, shame on you. Right? And you get to live with that shame. So I won't do that. It's like I will almost never write a song with a good title that song comes out bad and then reuse the title. They get married when that happens. So I put it off for a long time. And then I was on this songwriting roll where I was writing a song. When I get on a roll, I'll write 3 in a row on consecutive days, you know, very, very rarely 4, but I'll be popping for 3 days in a row. And I was right there. I was like, oh, okay, I can wake up and work. And I looked at the notebook and I was like, there's that title. You can do Getting Into Knives today. And it turned out to be like this really pretty, it's sort of your classic Mountain Goat song that like, it's a little mid-tempo, jaunty thing that you could imagine as sort of NPR segue music. And it's about a guy who's been dreaming of cutting someone to pieces for a long time. And looking forward to doing it, right? It's got some of my favorite lyrics. So that's great. I wish I could sell you a tour, but we're not going anywhere.
I love how you're like, all right, look, I already nailed 2. So this next one, it's time to use the big boy title. This is today's the day.
You can feel it. You can really feel it coming. It's sort of like what I imagine doing a proper stand-up set is like, where you can feel if you watch a good stand-up, like he's as they arrive toward the meat of their set, you go, now the rhythm is flowing. Now I can even ad-lib and go off script, and it's all going to land. You know, that feeling, and that does happen to me almost always in the summertime when I'll just be writing. It's like, I'm firing now. As long as I can get 2 hours alone with a guitar, I'm going to do something that's going to be good. And
it's like NBA Jam. You're on fire.
You're right.
Yeah. Is it the shoes? Who knows?
I insisted on playing the Minnesota Timberwolves in that game every single time.
Wow.
Wait, who was on the Timberwolves in that game? Because I
Leitner delivers the facial.
Isn't there like some sort of hack in that game where you can play as Bill Clinton or something like that?
Yeah, and Al Gore, and
that's right. Yeah, there was the era of that in Mortal Kombat, of course, where there were all sorts of joystick combos that could let you play as Shang Tsung and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you made your player name ARK in the beginning of the thing and then hit like select start, you would play as Bill Clinton. If you remember that.
Amazing.
It's so weird and random.
Man, I think
who
they
would have
never asked
thought
permission
of Bill Clinton as a fucking special character in a game?
Yeah, that's like, of all the special characters, like, what about the president?
Yeah, it's weird. I wonder if he had some sort of relationship to basketball that I don't know about.
Well, how do they even like? Yeah, what about the likeness rights? Like, is that you can just use like his face in a video game? Is it because he's not sold as part of the game that it's okay?
Actually,
I don't know.
Actually, I can tell you something about that, and that is because our video just came out today, the Get Famous video, and it features bobbleheads. Like they cast bobbleheads of all of us, right? And then what happens is that me and the band meet at a guitar store, and we have dreams of getting famous. And then the scripts called for us to see various celebrities also as bobbleheads, right? And some of them would be like Monroe, like people who met bad ends, right? People for whom being famous turned out to be a pretty negative thing, because that's what the song is about. It's about how to wish that somebody gets famous is sort of to wish that they acquire a curse that they never shed, right? And so that's what it's about. Elvis was one of them, right? Because Elvis dies on the toilet, right? Sure, he got very, very rich. He also died very young, and you know, I mean, plenty of people I think would go, well, look, I'll take all that money, but I wouldn't trade my life for Elvis's for anything. You know, it's like Elvis's life on balance, 54. I'm 54 right now, almost. You know, and so anyway, we're going to do that. And they plotted the video out, and then they sent it to the lawyers at Merge, who said, okay, here are the estates that will come for you the second they see one of those faces. Marilyn Monroe, who was the other? Elvis Presley, and and John Wayne. Right. And part of you goes like, look, I got to be able to use John Wayne's face. Everybody knows John Wayne is public property. His face isn't. His face sure isn't. But you know who isn't protected by that is politicians. Once you go into politics, then you don't get to say, I can use as many fucked up images of you as I want to. Right. If you're a politician, you have no say in it. Right. You entered public service or something. I'm not sure how it works legally, but you no longer have any right,
fair use,
any legal right to complain. Whereas John Wayne's people will be coming for you, you know, when there are only roaches on the earth. The roaches will not be allowed to use the likeness of John Wayne.
So what you're saying is we need to make an indie video game where it's politicians and it's like a fighting game, and we just use all their likeness. And the cover's Trump versus Obama, you know, Trump versus Clinton, and we just go for it.
People would play the hell out of that game. Although are fighting games big now? I sort of feel like fighting games died.
My friend is really into the new Street Fighter, but there's like a little niche community around them. I think people really, I don't know if it's considered a fighting game straight up, but Super Smash Brothers.
Oh, sure. Smash Brothers. Yeah. That's like such its own thing.
Yeah. That has like some of that stuff has been hurt by COVID because there's like a lot of meetup groups. Dude, when I was at SF State, there was an arcade on campus and there was a Street Fighter thing and people would line up to play. And I played a couple times and these kids just fucking wrecked me. It was like,
it's so amazing. Well. It's the most amazing feeling to go, I'm pretty good at this. Yeah, sit down.
Yeah, I was like, all right, well, I have to like buy this game and like practice in my dorm for like years before I could come back to this arcade and show my face again. It was
and they show up with their own controllers that are all like jazzed out. There was a vegan punk bar in Portland that I used to host an open mic at, and after the open mic like stopped, to make money they started allowing like these Street Fighter tournaments, and so it's like the weirdest space to have.
I love how you said that as if it's some sort of dishonorable act. You know, they needed to make money, so they turned to allowing Street Fighter tournaments.
They turned to a life of competitive video games.
Like this place was like crust punk central. Like it was like the person working the door, letting the video gamers in was like it was funny for me to see. I'd go in there and I'd get like a meal, and I'd find myself watching them playing and being like rooting for a certain person, be like, I hope he kicks the shit out of that guy. But it was always, even doing a comedy open mic there was like the hardest thing in the world, because it was just drunk punks like trying to fight you after your set. So that
the point is not your jokes, but your face.
John, it was absolutely terrific meeting you. Thanks so much for making time to come on our podcast. Come back soon.
Can I just say the Hard Times has been really cool to us, and I really appreciate it. It's like you guys have really been like, the Mountain Goats jokes always fly. 10 million people forward them to me every time we run one.
They go nuts on Reddit too. Like every time we do a Mountain Goats reference, people on Reddit lose their minds. So the
thing that makes you feel so good is like you go, when you feel like you have ascended to reference point for something, you know, like, oh, here's the thing. I'll let you go if you got to go. But this is something I'm always kind of obsessed about. Are either of you old enough to have been on Napster?
Yeah.
Okay, so on Napster, there was a window of time where if any song was uploaded that was a joke or funny in any way, not just song parodies, but just any funny song, would be labeled as it was by Weird Al, right? And it was like, and you could not download a Weird Al song and have any idea what it was going to be. Right? It was just if it's funny, it's Weird Al, right? And I imagine that Weird Al was initially probably a little frustrated by that. I went, yeah, that's right. I'm shorthand for what's funny.
Yeah, like, you got to that Kleenex range where it's
exactly.
Yeah.
That's also, I think, intellectual property wise, the point at which I don't think Kleenex can complain. You know, I'm sorry, I've been doing interviews all day. I'm totally in talk mode. When the last book I wrote, you go through copy edit, and the copy editor's job is to fix everything that is technically wrong. They're not even reading your book for plot, except for continuity matters, right? They're just checking out, did you establish this thing you later said, and spelling and grammar and all that kind of stuff. And one of them is capitalization norms. And they had capitalized the D in dumpster. Somebody found something behind a dumpster. I was like, what are you talking about? They said, yeah, no, it's a brand name. And my mind was so completely blown. Like, dumpster takes a capital D, which I think to this day.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It just looks wrong to me, but it is correct.
We put out a book, a Hard Times book, and our copy editor ended up being a woman who grew up in the punk scene. And so her job was grammar and stuff, but she would also leave us notes like, hey, this club wasn't open yet in this year, all sorts of stuff.
Love so that.
She was so really an ace.
John Worster is an utter stickler for that sort of thing. It was like when he watches any show or movie that takes place, like, well, I'm pretty sure that drum kit would never have been seen anywhere near that room for another 3 years. And he notices it immediately on all that kind of stuff. It's really great. Who's the best punk band in the history of the world, by the way?
Oh, it's Minor Threat. I mean, it's easy.
That's easy? When I say Bad Brains, that doesn't come into it for you?
Bad Brains it has to be up there. Bad Brains, yeah, I think you can make an argument that Bad Brains is. I would separate punk and hardcore. I would say Bad Brains is certainly one of, if not the best, hardcore bands, especially because their influence was so intense. So a lot of the bands, people would say, "Oh, that's the best hardcore band." Well, they just wanted to be the Bad Brains. So Bad Brains. I mean, I think maybe Black Flag would probably be hard to compare with, particularly with all like their like pioneering touring stuff that they did. The
Black Flag, all the SST bands broke up in the tour routes, right? There's routes you do to this day that was groundwork laid by Black Flag and the Minutemen.
Yeah, I mean, when my band toured, my older brother like just read Get in the Van and just, tour smart and books like that. And like, how do you do this? Like, how do you do a little DIY tour? They were actually pioneering that shit, which like created more than just, so their band to me is more about, it's more than just the music. It's like they kind of created a DIY touring culture.
No, it's about groundwork. That whole time, like it really does remain influential. It's like, especially when you're coming up, is like in 97, when I was booking my first ever tour for myself, I called somebody who'd been in a Riot Girl band, and she said, "Oh yeah, well if you don't have a copy of Book Your Own Fucking Life, I have a copy in front of me, and I can read you some of these addresses." And that's what she did. So
yeah,
like I still remember, like I remember her reading me the address of Mind Over Matter, which was an Albuquerque, New Mexico record store, and there were no clubs to play in Albuquerque that anybody knew of, but you could go play Mind Over Matter, and then maybe you'd be able to sell enough stuff to have a place to stay as you were en route from Texas to California.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. It's like, it's kind of like how like little like towns popped up as people were like actually first, or as Western people were first traversing the country. Like, oh, this is a little trading post that you set up. The DIY touring scene has like these little like, yeah, you can call this guy. And this guy will take care of it for you.
That is that promoter is like they're individual people in individual scenes who become the guy like R4 in Philadelphia, man. Those guys, was it R4? I think it's what it's called. No, I'm thinking of a band, but it's like a letter and a number. But there's like a promoter in Philadelphia who did all ages shows at the Unitarian Church, and that made people go, well, you can go play an all ages show in Philadelphia. Right. And it gets people going. It's like, and it remains, it's actually something that's almost unaffected by the internet's growth. It remains a thing where you have to have a person who's doing the thing in the town, who's probably losing his ass every weekend, just losing tons of money.
The people who do that,
you can't log on to the First Unitarian Church website and book your time for a punk rock show or anything there. So
you need the person who has the hook to the venue, but the promoters are they're actually like bizarre to me, because I've been one for a little while, but I stopped doing it / handed it off to a friend of mine who is a promoter. So now when Hard Times book shows, people might come to me, but someone else actually does the actual show. It is the least thankful, least rewarding job on the fucking planet. Like, it's like a community service.
Like heroes. The good ones are like heroes. They seriously, like, they're the ones who, like, when you have a time in your scene where, like, most scenes have at least one summer where you go, God damn, do you remember there were like 3 good shows every week all summer long, and something happens at some point and it degenerates, but when that happens, the guy promoting the shows is a gigantic part of that. It's like, he's the guy who called Nation of Ulysses and said, hey, I see you guys are touring, you want to play our club, right? And that's how a bunch of people from the outlying cities went, well, I'm going to drive to Pomona because this band is playing there. And it's like, that stuff is so massively important.
My whole like subculture all throughout like college was pretty much booked through one guy. His name is Max. I don't think he played in bands. Maybe he did before I got to know him, and he became the guy.
Wait, was he Northern California, did you say?
Northern California. I think his name was Max Montez.
Because there was a Max who booked me.
He had a shaved head.
I forget if I ever met him. There was a Max who booked me and got me into like a rec center in San Jose or something. It was like, it wasn't like him, and like a Sacramento show at a coffee shop. I was like, wow, I'm playing Sacramento, and the Mountain Ghost didn't have 50 fans in Sacramento at that time. Didn't have 20, but it was like, cool. I'm playing a town that I couldn't have opened up otherwise.
Max did a huge chunk of Bay Area shows for, I don't know, 5-6 years. And then I remember him being like, I'm done. Like, I'm retiring. And he started handing off his contacts. So soon when you contacted Max, you actually got sent to Carlos or to someone else.
Well, the scene was never the same after Carlos came in.
Fucking Carlos fucked it.
He meant well.
Yeah, man. Come hang out soon, and let us book this ultimate Magic the Gathering contest between you and Lars. I think that'd be hilarious. We'll book it like it's
I would absolutely love to do it. That would be absolutely fantastic.
We'll book it like it's an old school wrestling event. Like, we'll get some old school looking boxing flyers and shit.
I'm telling you now, I wish I could talk smack, but he will destroy me. I am the most beatable player. I have made Mythic 2. I made Mythic 2 out of the past 3 months, but like, the thing is, if I do, I think it's largely a function of luck.
Dude. We'll the showdown 10 years in the making. We'll make up a backstory about it. You guys, your cross paths on tour. He had a deck, you had a deck. It was a whole thing, man.
He was playing mono red, and I told him mono red was a bullshit macho stance to take. Right? So.
He's been training ever since. Yeah. All right, brother. Well, it was great meeting you, and
a real pleasure. Good to meet you guys. Thank you for your time. I hope I'm always nervous. The more interviews I do in a day, the more nervous I am at the end of one that it wasn't fun for the people doing it. So I hope it was all right.
You did great.
This is great, John.
Is there anywhere you want to direct people last minute to go check out some of your stuff, like a website or something?
Well, we have the extremely great website name of mountain-goats.com. As you can see,
Matt loves a hyphen in his domain names. You want to talk hyphens and domain names?
I just started a website with a hyphen in it. It's a really low class move, but you can't beat the price.
Well, the thing is, I want to tell you now, I want you to get very comfortable with it, because you will for years be saying it going, why didn't I pick? But somebody else had already squatted mountaingoats.com and themountaingoats.com by the time we got there, right? And at first I was like, well, let's come up with something cool, like I don't know, the bulwark.com or something. Everybody will go, no, it has to be your name. It has to be the band name. Because that's how it's going to wind up being SEO'd, right? That's how the optimization works. But man, it's a mountain-goats.com. It's the same as, I won't say my email address on the air.
I started one I started one recently, hard-money.net. Now tell me that isn't the brokest sounding fucking website you've ever heard of.
You could have gone for hardmoney.fortunecity.biz. That's what I would go for. I am obsessed with those old sites with Fortune City and Angel Fire, that shit. I can think about that stuff all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got the little tracker that says how many people have visited your page at the bottom.
And a rotating skull with flames around it, man.
Just a cool aesthetic, man. Can't beat it.
The share zone basically owns that now, right? Like the share zone is like
they have a smart aesthetic. I like that a lot.
No, I love them. They seem like there's something. What's funny about them is like you can just feel like they seem like decent types. You know, I don't think anybody knows anything about them as far as I know. But there's something about them that gives off a warmth, which is hilarious because it's all shrouded skulls and stuff.
All right, brother. Well, it was great talking to you. And,
all right, man. A real pleasure. We'll talk to you again once we're back out on the road. Holler at me for guest list, and we'll make it happen. You guys are great. You're doing great work.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll hang out.
Jen.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.